Good morning, everyone. Let's see. We got a few people on here already, which is exciting. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for this Courseware launch webinar with Kathy and Stephen. We're very excited to have you all here with us. We'll go ahead and get started with a little bit, as we wait for people to join, we'll go ahead and get started with a little question for you all. Go ahead and chat in where you're from, what school you teach at, and if you're feeling up to it, since we're in December and Christmas is around the corner, I figured I'd ask what your favorite Christmas tradition is. So go ahead and put that in the chat when you're ready, where you're from, what school you teach at, and your favorite Christmas tradition if you have one. So I am from originally from Reno, Nevada. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Chad Gray. I'm sure a few of you have seen me on here before. I've done a few webinars. I don't teach anywhere. I work at Stukent. I can't hear you. Sherry, we'll see if someone can help you with that. Seems like everyone else can hear me just fine. So if someone on my team maybe wants to help Sherry out, that'd be great. So originally from Reno, Nevada. I currently live in Utah and have been working with Stukent for 3 years. And my favorite Christmas tradition is probably either the Christmas pajamas that we always get, or my mom always put an orange at the bottom of my stocking for some reason. They had a story that went along with it. And I know a few people know of that tradition, but that's one of my favorites. So I'll go ahead and read a few of these. Let's see. Lynn Kaiser from Lake, Minnesota, business instructor at Minnesota State Community and Technical College. Welcome, Lynn. We have Mike from Davenport. Awesome. The food, he says. And Amber is saying, waking up early on Christmas morning to make breakfast with her family. Everyone loves Christmas food. Opening one gift on Christmas Eve. Yep, we've done that one as well. Let's see, I'll just read a couple more real quick. Elf on the Shelf game, that's become very popular. I've heard both good things and bad things from parents about that one. Some really like doing it, others don't enjoy it too much. Let's see, from Texas, Darlin, one of my favorite traditions is watch It's a Wonderful Life on Christmas Eve. Yes, that's a good movie and play, actually. Awesome, everyone. So thank you. As you can see, there is the chat option here on the webinar. So feel free to ask any questions throughout the presentation that you might have, and we will save. We'll try to get to the questions throughout the presentation, but if not, we will have a Q&A at the end where you can ask Kathy and Stephen any and all questions that you have for them. So thank you all for being here. The purpose of this webinar is obviously to tell you about our brand new courseware, Business Research Essentials, that we are very excited to be launching. We have two incredible authors in Stephen and Kathy. I personally have known Stephen since I started here at Stukent. He was one of the first authors that I worked with and as a product marketing manager, and he's been awesome. And I've only known Kathy a short while, but I can tell that she is a great author as well. And I'm excited to get to know her and work with her with this product as well. So welcome to the team, Kathy and Stephen. It's good to have you here as well again. So I would like to start by showing off a quick video, little intro video to Business Research Essentials. So if my team can tee that up for me, we'll just watch that. It's about less than 2 minutes. And we will continue after that.
Instinct might keep us out of harm's way, help us overcome minor obstacles, or even help us decide where to eat. But instinct only goes so far in business. Students need to learn early on that strong business decisions are based on reliable data, whether they're researching a new market, designing a product, or allocating a budget. Business Research Essentials by Stephen Stromp and Kathy Aboufadel is designed to prepare students for the demanding world of business research. Through this industry-leading courseware, students will learn to identify, collect, and analyze data to make strategic business decisions. Plus, you'll get all the resources you need to provide an engaging learning experience, including a syllabus, course schedule, lesson plans, lecture slides, assignments, quizzes, and more. Plus, the courseware pairs effectively with Mimic Market Research to give students hands-on practice with every stage of the research process. Prepare your students to become tomorrow's business leaders with Business Research Essentials. Fill out the form on this page to get free instructor access to Business Research Essentials, including the full suite of student and instructor resources.
Courseware is. If I could have my team pull up the link to the courseware as well, in case you want to go and check it out for yourself throughout this presentation. You can click on the link here to request access and get in to the courseware immediately. And that way you can follow along with the presentation or check it out for yourself with the time that we have, and then ask questions about it at the end. So I know a few of you hopped on a little later, so if you want to introduce yourself and tell us where you're from, that'd be great. Just use the chat section here to the right. We're also answering what our favorite Christmas tradition is, so if you're feeling up to it, go ahead and share with us. We'd love to get to know you a little bit more. All right, awesome. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and introduce our people of the hour, which is Stephen Stromp and Kathy Aboufadel. So I'll do a little introduction for them, and then we'll hand the time over to them. We'll give them about 40-45 minutes to present. Feel free to ask any questions again, like I said, and then we'll have about 10-15 minutes towards the end to do a Q&A with them. So Stephen Stromp holds over 20 years of experience in business research. He has conducted research for a variety of industries, including healthcare, consumer packaged goods, automotive, and higher education. He is currently the Executive Director of Market Intelligence and Strategy at Davenport University and the author of Stukent's Market Research Essentials courseware. Kathy Aboufadel is the Vice President for Institutional Research and Effectiveness at Davenport University. Kathy is responsible for providing research and information in order to enhance decision-making, problem-solving, strategic planning, policy review, and institutional assessment. Kathy holds a PhD and MS in social psychology from Rutgers University. She teaches statistics at Davenport and as an adjunct professor. We are very happy to have both of them at the Stukent family and team, and we're excited to hear from them today. So Stephen and Kathy, go ahead and take it away for us.
Thank you, Chad. I'm going to go ahead and share our presentation, and hopefully a thumbs up if you can see it. Can you see it, Kathy? Okay, perfect. Thank you. So as Chad did a great introduction to Business Research Essentials, and I really love that video. So thank you for everyone for joining us. So just Chad already introduced me, but I do want to point out that I'm a practitioner in research, but I'm also an instructor. So I'm an adjunct instructor. Primarily, I teach different marketing courses and business courses, but my primary two courses that I teach as an adjunct at Davenport University are market research and business research courses. So that's kind of my background, and you can see why I'm the author of Market Research Essentials, but also that because of teaching business research, that really made me think there's another type of research courseware and textbook that makes sense to be available.
And I'm Kathy Aboufadel. I've been doing research, market research and business research in healthcare settings, higher ed, as a consultant working for food industries and credit card industries and car industries, all kinds of fun stuff. And I really enjoyed that. By doing such a variety of research methods in so many places, it gave us a great perspective to work on this book. So I'm in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and looking forward to sharing this book with you.
Thanks, Kathy. So why business research essentials? And I started a little bit of that in my introduction in talking about, at my institution, market research and business research are two different courses, and they're in different departments. So I'm a researcher. I started thinking about that, and so I did some research. I really got curious about how do other colleges do this? And so it turns out a fair amount of colleges have separate research courses that are not within a marketing department. They're not market research courses, but they're housed in business and management. So they're business or management research courses. And so, I just started thinking about all the business research that's involved in things like strategic management. And so that's really where we came to this idea that there is a pretty large market out there of a need for a research book that really focuses on leadership, managers, and the research tools and metrics that they need in their daily jobs, so that we could prepare students for that. So there may be some questions, what are the differences? Because now there's two coursewares, and there's other courseware that I've not been involved in at Stukent that is like the data analytics type of courseware. So what's the difference between market research and market research essentials and business research essentials? Well, with both texts, we really feel now that Stukent covers most of those research courses. So Market Research Essentials is organized by the research methods, and it's a really good foundation for understanding how to perform each of the methods. And it's really works well with marketing research courses, or there's some courses called marketing research, some courses called market research. Well, Business Research Essentials focuses on the research that future business leaders need to conduct and understand those methods. So the texts do complement each other. So you really could use Market Research Essentials to build that foundation of research methods, and then use Business Research Essentials to apply those methods from a manager or leadership perspective. So one is really more higher level than the other. However, if you just want to use Business Research Essentials, you can, because it does have that methodology section up front, where it's kind of like a Cliff Notes version of Market Research Essentials, and it does go over some of those essentials that you need in order to move on to apply that to business problems. So what we want to do now is take a step back. So we will go through each of the chapters individually and give some highlights. But what we want to do is show you how the 12 chapters within the textbook are structured, and just to kind of take a step back and see how is this structured. And we really think of it as 3 separate sections of the book. So the first 6 chapters are kind of our first section, and that really covers that foundation, those foundational research concepts. We really need to understand these concepts in order to apply them to business research situations. So this is where Market Research Essentials takes a really deep dive into these, and the whole textbook is around these. This textbook gives you a really healthy overview of what you need to know, pulling that out. What do you need to know before we can move forward and apply these to business decisions? So these chapters really act as an introduction to methodologies, or as a solid refresher for those who have already taken this at a lower level course, because we can recommend that this would be good for an undergrad course as well as a master's level course if it's layered correctly and they already have some type of exposure to this methodology. So we're thinking this is section 1. This is our laying the foundation for our research methods and the basic research methodologies and metrics that we need to know before we can move forward. Kathy, you're going to talk a little bit about the structure of the second section of the book. You're muted, Kathy. Sorry.
So then we do more of a deep dive into some specific areas. So in my experience doing research, I found that the types of business research questions that get asked are very broad. On the same day, I can be asked about sales trends within one segment of a market, or customer complaints with a specific process, or employee satisfaction about a specific change in policies. So we thought and found that the balanced scorecard was a methodology that is a way of grouping and structuring these different types of research questions in a way that students could understand. So a balanced scorecard is a strategic management tool that views the organization from 4 different perspectives. It has the finance, customer, internal process perspective, and then the learning and growth perspective. So for each of these perspectives, there's metrics and performance targets that you would collect and analyze data. And then because of that, for each of these areas, which contain your important metrics, you're going to have research questions within those areas. So in this section, we dive into the types of research methodologies that might be used specifically in each of these 4 areas.
Kathy, so it was Kathy's idea to structure the textbook around the balanced scorecard perspectives, which really got me excited about this book and how it's different from a lot of books that I've seen out there. So the final 2 chapters really cover things we thought, well, this is great, but there's still research related to business decisions that are outside of the balanced scorecard framework. So we said, well, what are those? Well, one thing that we know occurs a lot is that product research, either new product development or looking at your current product portfolio. And then finally, marketing research. So we're calling kind of both of these market research in the broader term. So if we break that down, we have our product research and then our marketing research, which is along the lines of your traditional brand research and advertising research. So that's just kind of a broad look. So now what we'd like to do is go through chapter by chapter and just give you some highlights so that you know what would be included in this chapter. And we also invite you to go through a test drive of the courseware where you can kind of play around and dig some more into these yourself as well. So for chapter 1, it's really an overview of what's to come, as well as it works as an introduction to these key research concepts that every student should know as they progress through the text. So this also works, it introduces how research fits with key performance indicators at a business, and it also introduces how those then map to a balanced scorecard framework. So one of the assignments that I really love here is it has students mapping the likely KPI metrics to their appropriate balanced scorecard perspective. And you'll notice on the bottom of each slide, we have just an example assignment, just a real quick blurb of what an assignment might look like. But I want you to know in the courseware, there are actually 2 assignments for each chapter. And being an instructor myself, I know grading these assignments over and over when you have, a lot of text-based assignments, it's a lot of work, especially with large classes. So one thing that we did on purpose is for every chapter, we have 1 assignment that has a direct key for easy grading. So that's always going to be, there's a direct answer to that. So you will be able to answer that, either like matching or fill in the blank. Well, the other assignment is a short essay or short answer type of assignment. So we really tried to incorporate both into each chapter to give you a choice. And Kathy will talk about chapter 2.
So chapter 2 covers what's historically been thought of as secondary research or internal data analysis. These are the business questions that can be answered using the data that already exist. It's data that might exist in your current operating data systems in your data warehouses, or it might be data that exists externally that other people have collected, data that you might get from environmental scanning, or other methods. So we do cover the most current topics that fit under the umbrella of business intelligence, such as data mining. But know that we're not teaching people how to do data mining specifically. It's more of an overview of what it is, how you would use it, what the purpose of it is. So they should be, after doing this chapter, familiar with the terms, so they'll understand data warehousing, but certainly they're not ready to program a data warehouse.
Okay, so for chapter 3 covers qualitative primary research. So the main ones we focus on are focus groups, mystery shopping, and kind of a blanket bucket of ethnographic research, which we do delve into observational research, research involving virtual and mobile technologies, diaries, both, kind of old school, diary research in terms of new product development and, electronic diaries, as well as passive tracking technology. So in that one, we have an assignment. Of course, all of them have an assignment that has either a quick answer key or a short essay. So our example here is just a matching assignment that's easy to grade. And chapter 4 is our survey research chapter. So this chapter is really, what are the best practices in survey design? It covers items such as question sequencing. What should the order be for a typical survey? What should survey length be? We all know survey lengths need to be short and brief nowadays. What are proper scale and response options that you have to develop in your survey? We cover survey invites. How do we entice respondents to take our survey and help our response rates? And we cover online survey software, and of course, calculating response rates. So what we don't get into here is the different types of surveys. The way the book is structured is they get the overall best practices in developing a survey. But then when we go into the further chapters, particularly in the balanced scorecard section, then we do give examples of, okay, now you have that foundation to build this survey. What does that look like for this particular balanced scorecard perspective? For instance, if you want to do a employee satisfaction survey, what are the best components to go into that survey? So it does build from there. And then Kathy will cover chapter 5.
So this is our one chapter related to data analysis. We will cover some other statistical techniques later in the book, but this is their overview. So because it is the one chapter for your statistics, it's high level. We aren't teaching the formulas for how you do a t-test or analysis of variance. We are covering the statistics and the formulas for the basic descriptive statistics. So of course we have the mean, median, mode, and the range, standard deviation, and how you would calculate those things, because I think that's an important basis that should be reviewed if they haven't already had their statistics class. One thing that I'm particularly proud of in here is that we cover data preparation. So that's something that when you're a researcher or an analysis, you spend a lot of time preparing your data, cleaning it, making sure your information's in the right columns. And that's not been found in the books that I've seen. So I think that's an important component to have in there. So we're starting with those basics, leading through the descriptive statistics, getting through tabulation and segmentation, which is the bread and butter of a researcher's life. And then touching on, at least giving an overview of the most common inferential statistics test. That's where we're covering the t-test, correlation, and analysis of variance, just on a page for analysis of variance. Again, not the detail, just when you would use it, why you would use it. So moving on then.
Okay, so I always say this to my students too. I say about 70% of the work in research is kind of that data prep that Kathy talked about, but also being able to communicate the results in a meaningful way that best represents the data. And I think there's nowhere that it's more important than if you're a manager or a leader or a director at a company, which is really what this book is geared toward, helping produce those professionals. So we do have a really good chapter on proper data visualization and reporting. So what components go into what should be included in a report? And where I see students really having trouble is with those proper data visuals. So in the business research class that I teach, I do see when they have to create, we say, put a data visual in this report, but a lot of times they don't have the foundation to know the basics in terms of, you shouldn't really be showing a line chart if it's not time series data. So I'm seeing a line chart with where dots should not be connected. So this chapter helps, go through each type of data visualization, the common ones, and when it makes sense to use them so that their data is really representing the data, so that their visual is really representing the data correctly. So before they can put together a report, they need to know those proper visuals. And again, because survey software, everything's so automated, right? And survey software nowadays will allow students to display data incorrectly. It will let them, with a click of a button, do something that they probably shouldn't be doing. So just having that kind of filter to know what makes sense and what doesn't is really the option, or it's really the beauty of this chapter. So one of the assignments is an infographic assignment, which I really like, because that forces students to, once they know the foundation, how do they boil it down to what's really important, and that it's visually engaging, but that it also represents the data? Because we all know, back in the day, I used to, be able to write, a report that was like a traditional research report. Those days are gone. It's either, a slide deck or it's an infographic. So getting students to know how to do that is a really key component of this course. So I will turn it over to Kathy now, because now we're in this kind of ends the section of, this is the foundational knowledge that you need to know. And now we're going to apply that knowledge to the balanced scorecard framework. And this is where Kathy will kick us off.
Okay, so I already mentioned the 4 areas of a balanced scorecard. Each of these 4 areas has its own chapter. And each of those chapters starts by talking about what the common business metrics are that would be monitored in these areas. Those are the KPIs, your key performance indicators. So for example, within finance, you might measure your sales and you might measure your revenue. That's just 2 examples. So then within each of these 4 chapters, after discussing what those KPIs are, we discuss what business questions are likely to arise from those metrics. So connecting that big picture metrics to what business questions arise. And then once you know what those business questions are, that leads you into the research that you would be conducting if you saw a need to do it. So finance is the first of those chapters. And, a key metric might be your sales. If your sales are down, one of your business questions might be, well, is sales down across the whole company, or is it certain territories? Is it down for certain products? Is it down for certain segments of customer types? So those types of business questions lead you to needing to do segmentation. And so we talk about how to do meaningful segmentation research. So in the same place, we'll talk about, I'm sorry, we got a little advanced there. So the finance perspective there would talk about disaggregating, segmenting your sales data, as well as doing sales forecasting. And here's where we get a little more statistics, and we'll talk about how to calculate a market share and a regression analysis. So those are the types of research you're likely to do in the finance perspective. If those questions, if your key metrics in those areas are not meeting your expectations. Now moving on to the customer perspective. So again, we talk about what the business questions are likely to be, and then what research methods you would use to answer those questions. So if your customers are not satisfied, then you might do segmentation to see if there are just certain groups of customers that are not satisfied, or if it's an overall trend. We talk about how to create customer satisfaction surveys to better understand, and that's just key across all types of research. And then we're applying what we learned in an earlier chapter about how to conduct focus groups specifically to customer focus groups. So a little more detail about the nuances of when you're doing focus groups with customers, how those might be different. So that would be the second. And I can, if you have questions, I can address more detail on this when we get to the question and answer time. So the third perspective is that internal processes, which may not always be considered, I think, when you're doing business research, but it is something that comes up often enough in my business life, where they come to us institutional researchers and want to find out more about what's going on with processes. How long is it taking to serve customers? What's our turnover in our products or our inventory? What's the quality of our products? monitoring that. So those are things that you might want to do business research on. And that research could be surveys of your employees. We've already covered survey techniques in an earlier chapter, but now we're getting into more specifics. Focus groups of those employees or of the customers, if that's called for. In the observational research or mystery shopping research, two methods that are talked about in general early on, and now we apply them to the specifics of a situation where it's going to happen. And then the final perspective is learning and growth perspective. This has to do with your capacity to do work, your capability to do work, of your machinery and your facilities, and most importantly, your employees. So key metrics are likely to be your employees' satisfaction, the workplace climate. These are key areas that we will dig into here. What are the behaviors and attitudes and feelings that characterize your life in the business organization? That's what we mean when we say the business climate. Business climate's a little different than just employee satisfaction. So what those differences are also discussed in this section. So Stephen will now take over.
Sure. So for our final two chapters, so I like how Kathy was explaining how, again, we set up the foundation in those first 6 chapters, but now we're getting more specific and using that knowledge to apply to the different areas of business research. So those were the 4 balanced scorecard perspectives. But like I said in the beginning, there are business research that falls outside of those perspectives. So one of my favorite chapters is the chapter on product research, probably because it's a lot of the work that I do now is in the institution where I work at Davenport is new program development, program review. And here is where we examine these 5 areas. So new product development and looking at your current product portfolio, really you're looking at these 5 things, right? The competitor landscape, consumer trends, industry trends, some pricing analysis as part of the competitive analysis, and then what's your brand assessment and what do you want to be known for, and are you achieving those key brand attributes, right? So it's how we might get at each of these through different methods. So similar to the balanced scorecard chapter, this chapter also covers these 5 items that you would need to know about, right? That you need to dig into, but it's showing examples using secondary research. How would we get that competitive analysis using secondary research, product focus groups, new product development surveys. So we go through a different type of survey. Also that ethnographic product research. So we cover, usability and customer experience research in this particular chapter. And so this does give a good overview of what we need to keep that product portfolio relevant and develop new products to also stay relevant in the industry and marketplace. So our final chapter is that marketing research, what we're calling the marketing research. So as you can see, we're using market research as the broad term to kind of cover those 4 P's of marketing. So for marketing research, we're really focusing in on branding and advertising research, kind of what's left over that wasn't in the balanced scorecard or product development. So these are things like, how do we assess our brand? How do we test and develop advertising concepts to be sure they're meeting our key brand attributes? And I know Stukent is famous for its digital marketing courseware. So we're not trying to compete with that here. We're just really introducing some of those metrics so that you can glean so that you can glean some of that stuff. So in terms of like digital marketing, what information can be taken from digital ad placements that can tell us how well we're resonating with our target audience? So the assignment here, I really like, it has students building a brand survey. So the first thing they have to do is do some secondary research on an organization to find out, well, what are the key brand attributes of that organization? And then using the framework of the brand survey that's in the textbook, how do they, how can you craft a survey using those best case practices for survey development of a brand survey while weaving in the key brand attributes of that specific organization, so that we get a really good tool to use that if we were to implement it, it would really give us a good brand read of our organization against a competitor's organization. So those are the the chapters of the book. And right now I want to just spend a little bit of time going over the course project and the suggested calendar. So there's a couple project options that we have for Business Research Essentials. And the first one is included in the courseware. It's baked right in. It's a comprehensive project. And for this particular project, students choose a company at the beginning of the semester and are given tasks that are related to each core chapter. So the core chapters, we're really saying, are chapters 7 through 12, because again, chapters 1 through 6, they're building that foundation. So by what they'll do is walk through tasks for each of those chapters 7 through 12 with that foundation knowledge with them to build a nice portfolio of going through each of these business research, the 4-balance scorecard, and then the 2 additional chapters where they will be either developing methods, they will be conducting some secondary research to gather some of these metrics. So just to get a really good taste of what you would need to do as a researcher, director, manager to pull this information together to make strategic business decisions. So for instance, they are asked to report market share for publicly available companies. So they can either find that or they could calculate it themselves. And they're also asked to create surveys for companies so that align with industry standards. So they might be, doing employee satisfaction surveys or, some of those new product surveys. They also have to fill in a balanced scorecard snapshot, which I think is a really good exercise, to think of a company and think of what would their balanced scorecard look like and what would be the KPIs, the key performance indicators underneath those, the 4 perspectives, right? So just kind of getting their brain wired that way in terms of doing research. What are the metrics that are under that? And then within those metrics, if something's low or not is underperforming, this book will teach them how to dig into that issue with these follow-up research methods that we've been covering. So we're really excited about that kind of comprehensive project that dips its toe into each of those areas. So then finally, just a look at what we suggest as the course calendar. Of course, that's up to the instructor. We do have this built out as a 15-week course. And you'll notice some interesting things. So we have 2 of our assignment options kind of under the assignment column. There's, of course, two different options for assignments throughout. So if you look at the course project column, and then we have the quizzes, of course. So I don't want to fail to mention that. So we have auto-graded quizzes for each chapter. And one thing that I recommend is having the student first take that quiz at the top of the week, if it's a 15-week course, because that really forces them, A, to do the reading, and B, if they take that quiz, they are primed to then, they have the knowledge to go forward to do the assignment and then apply that, do the assignment, that's their practice, and then apply it to the course project. So as you can see, we do have the course project, and you'll see how it's structured. So again, we don't want to really start that course project until they have that core knowledge. So we can't have them building surveys and doing things for their company until they go through chapters 1 through 6. So you can see how we have it spread out. So at the beginning of the course, we recommend start them thinking about the project and have them pick a company. We do have a list of suggested companies that this project would work for. But then we're going to kind of hold off for this project until we kind of start hitting those chapters. And then we can chunk it out into, I love having just, the related piece of that project due each week so that it's not a huge, project at the end of the semester, but they can kind of add to that portfolio of business research. So at the end of the semester, they can take a step back and have this wonderful project. So that leaves a gap, right? If you want to do a project in the first part of the semester. So Chad did a good job talking about how this does pair well. And I know that this does pair well with, and there's a discount to bundle. So this does pair well with the Mimic Market Research Simulation, because that simulation really covers the methodologies from chapters 1 through 6. So the way you could run the course is doing the first half, if for project work, having them do the simulation, that would really give a robust background to chapters 1 through 6, and then switching over to the project the second half of the semester, which would really have them apply that to the balanced scorecard perspectives, as well as the 2 the product research and marketing research. So just a real quick overview of everything that's included in the courseware. And again, I'd really love you to see how it's laid out. It looks really beautiful, and Stukent did a great job. It looks really beautiful in the Edify system. If you're familiar with that, I'm sure they'd be happy to walk you through. So we do have, and there's a sample course calendar if you'd like to download that. That was what I was showing on the screen. But this does show, this is everything that's included. So one thing that we're really proud about and we put a lot of work in is all of the quiz questions. We have a really large, quiz bank, but we also have a really large exam bank where it's a 50 question randomized exam auto-graded bank. However, there's an additional 70 questions that you can throw in and take out. If you think the questions are getting stale semester to semester, you can swap them out with that test bank that's kind of sitting there for you. So it's a great repository. So we do have all of these included in the software, in the courseware. And I think that was our wrap up. So we are happy to answer any questions. We have about 20 minutes, and I'll turn it back over to Stukent.
Awesome. Can you guys hear me okay? Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Kathy and Stephen, for that presentation. Business Research Essentials is an awesome new product, and we're excited for it. Oh, looks like Stephen left. Hopefully he's back on here in a second. There.
I'm back.
Oh, that's funny. We were just joking about that before the meeting. Anyways, okay, awesome. So we have a few questions that we'll just go ahead and ask you guys, and if any other questions get brought up to those who are attending, just feel free to put them in the chat, and we'll get to them as we go along here. So, first question we have here is, what makes Business Research Essentials different from what's out there today?
So I think it's really two things, and Kathy might have some different ideas on this too. Yeah. But I really think it's really, we really chose what we think would be, from our experience, we both have a lot of experience working not just in higher education, but with other industries. What are the common tools? So it's a really practical textbook. So it's something that somebody could graduate with, and they could take this with them into the workplace and have a really nice repository of surveys, methods, different types of research that they could actually use and refer to in their job. I wish I would have had this going into my career. And the other thing I have not seen, I could be wrong, and there's a lot of books that covered the balanced scorecard perspectives, but I don't think there's one that maps as well to the research within those balanced scorecard perspectives that's needed to maintain the scorecard. So we're constantly, Kathy does a lot of work with the balanced scorecard at our organization, and these are really common types of research. We're always asking, well, if this one's up or down, how do we dig into that? What are ways we should dig into to see, where we could improve that metric? And so that's really where our expertise is, and we really baked that into the book. Kathy, I don't know if you're awesome.
No, it's the applied thing that I haven't seen. Other books seem more theoretical to me. This is more of a, here's how you do it.
Awesome. Yeah, that's certainly how we like to kind of organize things at Stukent here, is we really like to focus on the application, as well as, have the theory in there as well. But we really want to get students in trying the tools that they'll be working with, doing the things that they'll be doing after they graduate, right? So that's great. There is a question here that just came in that I think kind of goes along with this topic, and it's from Saeed, and they ask, have you included any data analysis software in the courseware?
We have not. We have.
Well, we talk about some of the software, but it's not included in the courseware. So we do send links to, so there's some links to data analysis websites where you can do your own statistics on a website. We do have that, and then we do talk about the common types of data analysis software. But because everybody, a lot of institutions use different software, it's not actually bundled or included with the coursework, but we do cover it as a concept for sure.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Awesome.
We even highlight how, SPSS, R, a few of the common ones, and cite their advantages and disadvantages, but we don't include them.
Saeed, first of all, sorry if I'm saying your name incorrectly, but second of all, if there was a data analysis software that you would want in the courseware, what would that look like? If you just want to answer that for us, which one would you like to focus on, or what two, what do you have in your class, or what do you teach? I'd be curious to know that. Awesome. While he's doing that, another question we have are, what are the main things you want students to walk away with from this courseware?
I would hope that the student could walk away with an understanding of the breadth of business research and an understanding of the different methods that can be used to answer business questions, that when they're in a work environment, they could hear someone talking about, well, gee, I don't know why we're seeing this. And they would start thinking about how they would go about answering that question.
So kind of like become better decision makers after graduation when they get in those roles of management type roles in business.
Yeah, not the decision, well, not even decision making, but better able to dig in and ask the questions and answer the questions and find the data, figure out more questioning managers.
Gotcha.
How to ask questions and how to answer those questions. That then they can go on to make the decisions.
Yeah. Awesome. Stephen, did you have anything? Yeah, did you have anything?
Just probably back to my answer from the other question, is I really do see it as a good repository, that almost like a handbook that they, they're going to learn this information, but if they go out into the workplace, they can use this for really practical use in a business research environment. And it's not just for researchers, right? This book is geared toward managers, leadership, directors. So they might not always be collecting this research. So I think what the beauty of it is they may not be the ones responsible for this, but then they could partner with a research company or vendor or their research department internally to make sure that they're asking the right questions and make sure that they have you considered this, or being able to dig into the data themselves. I think having that frame of mind is really needed in today's business world. We constantly hear presidents and CEOs saying it needs to be, data based. And this is a way for decisions to really be data based from a manager perspective.
Yeah, awesome. I see that Lynn just asked a technical question that I'll just go ahead and answer real quick. And it looks like Amber from our team answered it as well. But for those of you that don't know, Lynn asked, what is the process to adopt the courseware? It depends on where you're at in the process, but kind of the way we do things is you request access first to the courseware, and by going to the landing page, and if somebody from my team can pop up a link to that, that'd be great. And then once you request access, and depending on where you're at, you can either ask for a demo from your course consultant, and they can walk you through the courseware and kind of go a little deeper with you and see how it could fit in your class. If you want to skip that, you can go straight to the order form, which I believe is stukent.com/order form or order, something like that. We can probably put a link in the chat as well to that. And so if you're ready to adopt, you just go to that form, fill it out, and then course consultant will get with you and make sure you're all set for your next semester. So there we go. There's the link right there. Perfect. Awesome. Thank you guys. Thank you team for helping me out with that. One last question I have so far, there might be one that comes up beforehand, but how has the business research landscape changed in the industry over the last 10, 20 years? And how has your courseware kept up with the industry?
Yeah, so it has definitely changed. So, we even just small changes, right? Like focus groups are online, due to COVID. So, and even before that, it was going into that area where there were more tools. We do cover, so this is our first, business research essentials. So we feel it's up to date for now, but we will continue to update that. Stukent has us updating that on an annual basis. So we'll continue to bake that in. Any new developments. We do have a section. So one thing we did do is, with some of the statistical stuff, there are websites out there where we just feel, especially with leaderships and managers there, if you just want to plug in, if you have those raw numbers and you just want to do a quick t-test or even a NOVA, there are websites out there where you can, just type that information in and it will spit out the result to you. So we included that. That's kind of something that more leadership are doing on their own. So I was thinking and then we also include things like, with qualitative research has changed quite a bit through the years. So like I talked about, more focus groups are going online, but there's also all of this ethnographic research that really is dealing with mobile. So so we do have a whole section in there about how we're doing mobile ethnographic research, where you would give products or different product prototypes to potential buyers or potential consumers, and they're documenting real world use either through virtual or mobile, and that's really giving researchers an insight into how to develop products in the real world. And I don't know if Kathy has anything to add to keeping things relevant, but I think that's the challenge from here on out, right? Is we think we have a good starting point, but we will continue to add those in, and we'd love if you adopt this, and we hope you do, we'd love your help and feedback.
Yeah, the only other thing I'll mention is the change with data mining, business intelligence, and all of the way we use our data now to make decisions is so much more sophisticated than what we did 10 years ago, certainly 20 years ago, because we have so much more sophisticated data available.
Yeah.
So keeping that up to date will actually be enjoyable.
Yeah, and that made me think of something else, Kathy, because there's another thing that's exploded is this like vendor research, right? That they can do this, that you have vendors that can do your market intelligence for you, and they have just to a certain extent, right? So they're in my industry, and I've seen it for other industries, where they have this huge data set that they're keeping up to date, and they can you can then pull and extract from that at a with a subscription base. So those things I think are new and will continue to evolve. I think that's a whole market that is really exploded over the last couple of years. So we touched on that a little bit, but I want to keep my eye on that and continue to put those resources in the textbook, because I do see that that's an area that's growing.
Yeah. That's something I've never seen in the textbooks before too, is we have the live links so you can go and look at the Claritas segmentation tool and different things that are used by practitioners now.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's like one of our goals at Stukent, is to always stay current, and not only like do we have awesome authors that keep an eye on keep a pulse on the industry and everything, but we also listen to the customers and everyone here on the webinar, what they want, what they have seen in the industry, the changes they've seen, and we kind of take that into consideration as well. So any feedback from anyone who is on here is more than welcome by Stephen and Kathy, I'm sure. So that is all the questions I had for you guys. I did want to just have my team, I know we popped up the sample course calendar handout, but I also wanted, for those of you who are still on and attending, I wanted to give you the sample syllabus as well, if we could pop that in there. So you can download this and check it out and see how it can fit with your class, and you can make adjustments with it. It's more of like a guide than anything. You can play around with it, adjust it as you see fit. So with that being said, I will give Stephen and Kathy one last word if you would like to kind of wrap things up here.
About this new courseware, and finally, we've been working on it for almost a year, so it's exciting to have everyone take a look. And it looks, like I said, it looks really beautiful, and Stukent did a great job in the Edify system. So can't wait to have you take a look at it and poke around.
Yeah, and send us your feedback. We're happy to consider we want to learn from you.
Yes, I did see that someone did ask for your email, Stephen. I'm not sure if either of you are comfortable sharing your email or not, but if you are, I'm sure
I can
people
put
would
it in
like to reach out
there's,
to you.
sure.
That way you can maybe get some feedback from them, or they can ask you questions. So while they're doing that, we just wanted to thank everyone who's still on here. It's been an awesome webinar, and we're very excited for all the products we've launched here at Stukent this year and all the new products we'll be launching next year. We're really doing a lot, and all your feedback helps us do what we're doing. So thank you to everyone who's here, and thanks for attending. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas to everyone. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Kathy. Have a good one.